Hi, this is Manik and Aswami, development instructor, and it's my privilege to be a guest author for Remote Chess Academy. Today I will explain about my series on how to finish a game. You may be wondering, what kind of topic is this? Everyone knows how to checkmate, but why we are discussing it here? Yes, I agree, everyone knows how to checkmate the opponent king. The reason I discussed here, many players including masters, will have these kinds of position in their endgame. The situation where they had this kind of positions needs accurate play. Is it possible for them to play accurately? In situations like, they will have time trouble and opponent will have some drawing resources. Today we will discuss about that topic. How you can master the techniques to play accurately in those kinds of endgame. So, without thinking further, let us examine how to end a game with king-queen and king-rook positions, otherwise you may call it as famous Philidor's queen against rook ending. These days even strong grandmasters underestimate the importance of winning these kinds of position in any practical situation. Hence it is very important to know the techniques used to master them. Let us examine similar kind of situations where one failed to convert it into a win. The game you are now watching was played between two strong grandmasters, namely White Morozevich and Black Jakovenko. Morozevich knew what exactly he is doing. He used one of the fine techniques to overcome Black's counter-defending idea known as the sixth rank defenses. Morozevich forces the Black king into the corner. I will show you in a few moments on how you can adopt the same technique in practical endgames. Now to achieve something, he made the mistake of playing his king to f3, the same person who earlier executed fine techniques by pushing the king boldly. What do you think is the reason behind such a move in this position? Is it time trouble? Or he wants to achieve the desired position? The truth is both, he was playing in a time trouble and he wants to achieve Philidor's position. Okay, now you may be wondering what is Philidor's position. Let me explain it to you now so that you can understand why Morozevich played king to f3 in that particular moment. How to win with a queen against rook. This is the famous 1977 Philidor's queen against rook endgame. Generally people with queen struggle hard to win against a rook. The best way to defend with the rook is to maintain the rook near the king so as to avoid the queen forking king and rook. White's aim should be to separate the king and the rook. The position given can be achieved by giving checks and improving the king. Now it's White's turn to play. If it's Black's turn to play, Black must move the rook away from the king. Now guess how White can turn this position as Black to play? Probably most of you already know the answer was to triangulate and lose a move. Here White lost a move just by triangulating his queen. To do so White played queen d4 check, Black moves the king to h1 or h2 because it's check, White checks with the queen once again on h8 square, after king comes back to g1 where it was to be earlier, and that now only White restores the same position and it becomes to Black to play. You can see that White queen could have came to h4 directly from d4 square, but White chose to go to h8 and then h4, thus losing a move by triangulation. Well, great. White lost to move. Now what? Now comes the favorite part, separating rook from king. Anyway the rook moves, White can capture the rook in sequences of come checks and finally forking king and rook. Now return to the game between Morozevich and Jakovenko. Probably now, you all want to achieve the same Philidor's position like Morozevich also aspired for. I hope now you understood why he played king to f3. As soon as white played his king to f3, the Jakovenko jumped into the board by playing rook to f2 check, and both-way capture will lead to stalemate and its draw. Rather, in any way white's king runs, black rook always chase him because he can't make the capture. That is why it's not an easy task to handle these kinds of position, which could only be possible when you know that very practical techniques to handle the same to become a winner. Otherwise the party with the rook has lot of drawing chances, if white doesn't know on how to handle this situation very well. Again, similar kind of situation happened in an important rapid event, where Peter's fiddler failed to convert it into winning game. In this game, where I don't think he even practiced this kind of situation earlier in any way. Let us come to the main part of this video. How you can learn and master this practical endgame technique. Before we start practically, you need to keep an eye on the 50-move rule, and the rook could be won in fork, pin or X-ray attack, and maybe sometimes to avoid mate threat. And you should apply these principles in practical game. 1. Push the opponent's king to the edge. 2. Keep your king diagonally closer to the rook, attacking the rook and limiting opponent king's movements. 3. Use some quiet moves to force the separation of the rook. 4. Use the queen's ability to move diagonally as often as possible. 5. Avoid checks to your own king. We may call it as Igor Smirnov's anti-blunder techniques. Let us see these principles in action. Here, in this position, black played king to e4 closer to the rook and attacking it. Here one fine practical rule you need to know: control this particular square which is straight in front of opposite king, with your own king and queen. Now black tries to push opponent king to corner and will try to separate both king and rook in the way of giving some checks with his queen, and uses some quiet move to force the separation of the rook. Now black tries to push opponent king to corner and will try to separate both king and rook in the way of giving some checks with his queen, and uses some quiet move to force the separation of the rook. By playing queen to b5 check, not only forces opponent king to the end and also avoids rook's check. After white's reply to the check, once again black makes a quiet move with his king to limit opponent king as well. Note now black played queen to b6, attacking the rook and allowing check black's king. It fails to after king to d3, the material loss or mate unavoidable. Instead white played rook to c8. Black replied with queen to b1 check. Black's only forced move was to play rook to c1 and mate follows. Once again we will examine another fine example. The following game was played between two super grandmasters, namely Peter Locco and Fabiano Caruana, in recent era. What do you think the superior would possibly apply these principles in this game? Let's see it in action. Game 5. Queen to c6 check, forking king and rook, forced to guard the rook by playing king to e7. Queen to g6 controls the king, rook to c7, obviously king to d5, and remember to guard the square inches straight front opponent king with your king and queen. King to d7, queen f7 check pushes the king to corner. King to d8, once again queen check. Now, after king to f7, white played queen to f4. The idea of move your queen diagonally, control key square and make a quiet move. Locco repeats the same technique, pushing the king to corner, and now at last king and rook were separated. All you have to do is find a fork. Let us applaud Locco for demonstrating a fine technique. Now, we have seen a recent player demonstrating this technique. Let us see the famous theoretician Viktor Korchnoi in action at Leningrad 1957 chess trials. So we now have the position, where white wants to use the 6th rank defense to save the game, so what you should do now? Yes, attack the rook with your king diagonally, king to c4, rook e3 now. Black applies another principle, give checks and push the king into corner, queen h2 check, king to e1, queen to g2, limiting black king's activity and a quiet move to force the separation of king and rook. Note the aim was to push the king into corner, use multiple checks and quiet moves, limit the king with your own queen and attack opponent rook with your own king. Note the move rook g2, it was forced for him to lose the 6th rank. After a move like rook g2, black was closer to achieve his aim, queen d1 check, king to f2, and now did you see the important principle that needs to be applied? Yes, king to f4, guarding the straight front square of opponent's king with your both king and queen. Rook h2, queen d2 check and king to g1, once again queen e1 check, king to g2. Now once again the important rule to guard the square inches front of the king. Did you see it? King g4 and a quiet move as well forces him to move his rook somewhere. White played rook to h1 desperately and falls into mating net, allowing the key square g3. So the old masters like Korchnoi, Capablanca and many others know the importance of finishing the game and mastered it. Why not you? Start immediately mastering them. I hope you enjoyed this lesson very well, but that's not it. I am going to show more in my next video. We will discuss other important endings and interesting topic like fortress in chess. See you till next time.